Good day. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar on the Zirconia Emerald Laser. My name is Travis Sammons. We also have with us today Dr. Cesar Lara, who's board certified in obesity medicine. Before I hand it over to Dr. Lara, I did want to make a quick comment on the unique times the virus has brought forth. As you guys know, there's going to be two outlooks right now from clinics. You're going to have the wait and see mindset, or the let's prepare and capitalize on the market as soon as it bounces back. I did see a fitting research article just this morning, and it surveyed 4,000 patients in New York that were hospitalized due to COVID-19. And what they did was review different characteristics to find out why these cases became so severe and ended up in the hospital. There were two main factors. The first one, unfortunately, I can't help you out with. That's going to be age-related. The second factor, which was just as important, was obesity. Now that we do have a solution for. As Dr. Lara will cover, the Emerald Laser is the only FDA-cleared device on the market to treat obese patients. So the public is fully aware of the health factors that obesity is going to bring. So as soon as this pandemic's over with, you can guarantee they're going to be out there looking to drop weight and become healthier. Not to mention, we are in swimsuit season. The gyms have been closed for the past month, and we're stuck in our house and not sure about you guys, but probably eating a few more snacks than what we're normally used to. So the market for Emerald is going to be bigger than ever. With that being said, I do want to turn it over to Dr. Cesar Lara, one of the most passionate doctors I know. Dr. Lara, if you have the ability to turn on your slide, you are ready to go.
Hello, welcome to this webinar, and I'm honored to be here today to give my perspective on how Emerald has been able to be helpful for my patients. And obviously, as Travis has indicated, there's definitely a relationship as the comorbidity of what could potentially create the COVID-19 disease more stressful and dangerous and potentially causing death. And those comorbidities, in addition to being pulmonary dysfunction, in addition to advanced age and inflammatory conditions, of course, obesity is one of the top three. And there's been also evidence to support, and two different studies that I saw just yesterday, where they looked at to some of the young people that were actually being affected with the hospitalizations and being put in respirators and so on and so forth. And in those individuals that were young, one of the primary issues were that they were definitely obese. And so obesity is not a surprise to you that it is an inflammatory condition, and it relates, as you know, to significant amount of diseases. And so at this point, outside of the possibility of the marketing, as Travis has expressed, my main focus is really how can I make a difference in the community. And so my focus is more holistic, but I appreciate the fact that a lot more patients are going to be requiring our services to help them become healthier and stay healthier as we move forward into the new earth that is being evolving as we experience these dramatic changes. So a little bit about me. I'm board certified in family medicine. That was my first love, and then subsequent to being really well grounded in that, I evolved into lifestyle medicine and have board certifications in obesity medicine, and I'm also a fellow of the Obesity Medical Society, and have advanced training and degrees in bioidentical hormone replacement, as well as bringing the wisdom of the ancient energy medicine perspectives. My practice today, it's multiple clinics in the Tampa Bay area. I have been doing strictly obesity medicine for at least 15, I think we're going now on 16 years. I've been blessed by being able to help change the lives of over 10,000 patients. And my goal is grounded in a holistic perspective, and that is really to empower my patients to achieve a healthy weight through education, guidance, and support systems. And so today, the way that I like to discuss with my patients is the intention is to heal ourselves from within. And so we need to address our body, address how we're thinking, and obviously begin to get rid of some of the toxins in our body to literally not only release the weight, but more importantly, keep the weight off indefinitely through our lifetime. Lifestyle modification is literally associated with a shift in mindset. So as you know, many patients come in and it's like, I just want to get rid of this ugly thing around my waist. And although anyone can potentially provide for them some element of help in that regard, I think that we have a unique opportunity to really not only help them release those inches, but more importantly, change their mindset so that they can learn to keep it off indefinitely. And to quote one of my favorite authors, if you want a new outcome, you will need to, you will have to break the habit of being yourself and reinvent yourself. And that's Joe Dispenza. My patients' profiles are very diversified. They range from teenagers to my oldest patient has been 85 years of age, who was a type 2 diabetic and a wheelchair and needed help to balance her and begin to have improvements in her well-being. Weight loss goals in my practice range from I just need to lose 5 to 10 pounds and I can't do it on my own, to people that are obviously over 200 pounds of excess weight. Many come with the traditional risk factors for diseases. Others come already with a history of chronic conditions like cancer, diabetes, whether it's type 1, type 2, hypertension, heart attacks, etc. Most of my patients are, when they come in, a large percentage of them, at least 30 to 40%, are also taking multiple medications. The obesity rates in the United States, as they inconsistent with what's happening in the world, are continuing to increase. That is really a problem that we have seen evolve over the last 3 decades, and it's connected to the way that our food gets to our table. It's connected to misinformation. It's connected to living a life of quick and where people always feel like they're behind the ball game before they even start. But it's not surprising that obesity rates continue to increase. Of course, you probably already recognize that for the first time this decade, we're actually seeing children with elevated liver functions test and type 2 diabetes, which historically had been called a disease of adulthood. Now we're unfortunately seeing it in children. And the obesity rates in children are a small window of what is to come. So we continue to have a progressive challenge with excessive weight, and associated with that is a significant amount of conditions that come with it. This is just a quick slide that gives the perspective of obesity and chronic disease and the relationship of obesity in reference to dysfunctional mind, dysfunctional cardiovascular, dysfunctional issues related to blood pressure, related to cholesterol, related to polycystic ovarian syndrome. So every single system in our body is being affected when we have an inflammatory condition. As you know, in obesity medicine, it is not that fat cells are bad for you. It is that we develop a sick fat cell disease, which obviously needs to be eventually balanced and corrected. And so it is not so much that fat is bad, is that when we develop a condition in the fat cells where they accumulate too many fatty acids, that then those cells become dysfunctional and they begin to produce significant amounts of inflammatory cytokines, which then lead to a variety of conditions. And this particular slide just gives a perspective on those conditions, which many of our patients, as they're coming in, already have some of these conditions or are in the midst of potentially being a risk for them or developing them. As you know, back in 2013, the AMA for the first time officially recognized obesity as a disease. That took the perspective that it's just the fact that you have a weak mind and you just can't stop eating, and all you need to do is eat less and exercise, which has been the continual message that a lot of the patients that have this condition have been told over and over, not only by their peers, but more importantly by physicians, who basically many times just tell them just eat less and exercise and get on with it. And so this brought a little bit more perspective that it's not just something that people can change quickly with, it's actually a disease, and there's opportunities for us to really help with an element of compassion. My weight loss protocol, basically my patients come in, as I indicated, anywhere from 10 pounds or 200 pounds, and typically my patients will join the program, and they will start with what is typically a 12-week segments. My program is called An Awakening, and so they will start with the Awakening program of 12 weeks. I use a very low-calorie diet. Typically, my patients are somewhere between 800 and 1,200 calories per day. Occasionally, I dip a little bit lower, but that's an exception, not the rule. Typically, we're dealing with 800 to 1,200 calories per day, but it is not so much the calories that matter, it is the type of food that they're eating. And so to that perspective, I use a modified ketogenic nutritional plan that literally educates my patient and provides the support system so that they can begin to have no more than 30 net carbs per day. And total carbs is equal to, net carbs is equal to total carbs minus the fiber. So literally they're eating 30 net carbs per day. We transform that into teaspoons of sugar. It's a lot easier for patients to think in terms of teaspoons of sugar than it is to think in terms of math, 30 net carbs, 10 net carbs. So I always try to bring it home to them. And so we utilize a system where 5 net carbs is equal to 1 teaspoon of sugar. And so we begin to bring attention to that perspective when it comes to food options that are carbohydrates. And normally, as far as protein, we're using anywhere from 1.2 to 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of ideal weight, or approximately a half a gram of protein per pound. So if somebody wants their healthy weight is 150 pounds, then that person will need to have at least a minimum of 75 net grams of protein per day. And I typically go perhaps a little bit higher than that, but this is a good way to at least get in the ballpark of how much protein is necessary to prevent the patients from losing too much muscle mass, which is one of the primary problems that we face when a person is in a nutritional plan with the intention of reducing excess weight. Healthy fats, we use that in moderate amounts, somewhere between 10 and 20 grams. And we have a strong emphasis on the type of foods, where the origin is, where they come from. And so we're looking at organic vegetables, lean hormone-free meats as part of their protein options. Normally, the patients will be drinking about 1 gallon of water per day. And the intention here is to really teach them how to eat more normal, and so that includes 3 meals a day with a few snacks during the day. Again, it's not a lot of food in each meal, but it's enough to begin to help the body begin to wake up its metabolism and begin to also seed the right behavioral patterns that would like the patients to begin to stabilize once they reach their healthy weight and are focusing on a maintenance protocol. We occasionally start the patients also, I would say maybe about 50% of my patients, somewhere around the 6th week of being in the program, I will begin to institute 16-hour intermittent fasting on a couple of days a week. This again is when applicable, because I am not just working on with the intention of weight loss, but I'm really focusing on helping them improve their overall health, and more importantly, begin to work with autophagy, meaning the regenerative possibilities and the way that our body rejuvenates. I begin to introduce the biweekly 16-hour intermittent fasting with the intention of optimizing their immune system, as well as beginning to regenerate their cellular function. I use supplements very consistently. The primary supplements that I use are omega-3 fish oils, which obviously help as an anti-inflammatory, help improve the ability of the mind to work more effectively by bringing attention to the neocortex and beginning to give less feeding to the limbic brain, which is the emotional brain. Utilize CoQ10 very effectively, focusing on mitochondrial health. Probiotics obviously are huge. Most obese patients are not just having a difficult time saying no to the cookies or to the carbohydrates because they want to continue to eat them. Many times they can make a decision to say, I really don't want to eat this no more, and I'm going to make a decision not to. But if they have dysfunctional gut bacteria, the gut bacteria are basically do not want to die, and they love to eat sugar. And so we utilize a process by which we begin to reintroduce healthy probiotics that eventually can not only improve cellular function all across the board, but improve weight loss, and more importantly, improve the ability to maintain the weight loss, as eventually my patients begin to crave salads when they're literally in their 6th month or after the 3 months of being in the program. Polyphenols are extremely important. Obviously, they're antioxidants. We need to focus on the free radicals, on how to detoxify the cells, and I use polyphenols very consistently. Calcium pyruvate is another supplement that works through the Krebs cycle, helps improve the ability of the body to make energy or ATP, and it does this by, especially when you do not give it carbohydrates, it does this by either breaking down fat or breaking down muscle. And so calcium pyruvate works through the Krebs cycle to help improve the efficiency of the body to break down the fat and protect the muscle. And vitamin D is a huge part of obesity medicine. Most obese patients are obviously low on vitamin D. They have high levels of insulin resistance, their immune system is dysfunctional, and obviously low levels of vitamin D are associated with increased risk for prostate cancer, colon cancer, breast cancer. And so we focus on vitamin D consistently to make sure we get that to appropriate levels so that we can begin to improve not only insulin resistance, but more importantly, also thyroid function, which is directly connected to vitamin D. I also utilize tools to help my patients improve their ability to change their the usual and customary ways, and that is some anti-obesity medicines. I tend to go, for the most part, with the old bystanders that are generic as their tools, and we monitor them every week. So I use diethopropium, phentermine hydrochloride, phendimetrazine, and topiramate, and different I would say probably somewhere around 80% of my patients are using one of these. There's 20% of the patients that do not need it, can do without it, or have medical contraindications to use these, in which time I utilize just some fillers to help them feel a little bit more full, so that as they begin to make the adjustments in their eating patterns. A little something on the emerald laser now, how I begin to use that in conjunction with the medical therapy of helping my patients reach their healthy weight. So here's a little video that will give us a perspective on the newest emerald laser, which is phenomenal.
What if there was a laser so advanced it could target fat cells and shrink them by extracting the fatty liquids inside without harming the cell? What if this laser was non-invasive, has no side effects, and was completely painless? What if all you had to do was push a button and walk away while the laser did the rest? What if you could own the future of laser technology today? Yeah, I think so. The most advanced fat loss laser in the world is ready. It's waiting for you. Raccoon. Emerald.
How does it work? So it's a beautiful, it's a beautiful state-of-the-art machine. It's literally easy to utilize. I do not have to have a registered nurse or any high-level employee to be necessarily managing it. It's something that could easily be taught to some of your assistants in the office. It's simple. It's not, doesn't have any issues with side effects or problems of that type. So it's a very friendly to utilize and has remarkable results. So how does it work? Well, it utilizes this low-level green light laser, which directly targets adipocytes. So literally it bypasses the skin and it doesn't affect any other cells in your body. It literally just targets the fat cells or the adipocytes. And what it does is it creates small pores throughout the cell, which then open up or allow the triglycerides to leak from those different pores, and that leakage of the triglycerides and fatty material is then released into the extracellular space. And then, of course, you have the lymphatic system to then begin to take that out of that site and into other areas of the body for either use as energy or to excrete it out of the body. And the beautiful thing about it is that these pores are not permanent, but they literally last in the body anywhere from 3 to 4 days, and then the body literally closes them up again. So they're temporary in their temporary pores that are being created. This is what the machine will look like when you actually apply it to a patient. So literally, you just have to make sure that you're putting the area that you want to shrink in underneath this half moon, and you can do anywhere from legs, abdomens, and any different parts of the body that you want to, where this particular area will be literally lit up as you begin to put the machine on. This is what the emerald laser again looks like. The primary benefits of that is that first and foremost, it's not invasive. And there's no discomfort. Literally, a patient comes in with their iPhone, listening to a nice iPad, podcast, or listening to music, or just taking a little nap. You literally will, the typical session will last an average of 30 minutes. And you normally would put the patient for 15 minutes on one side, and then you turn them over, and you will do another 15 minutes on the other side. And the typical treatment is, this is a typo, it's really about 8 sessions in terms of their latest studies that have been done. And it is proven to through a 3-level clinical trials, which that means that it was double-blind, randomized, multi-site, and placebo-controlled. So this truly has been a evidence-based laser that actually didn't just take some patients and had them exercise and diet and do all those wonderful things that are necessary, but literally they did a double-blind study where they took patients that were not allowed to exercise, were not allowed to eat any different than they were eating, so they can isolate the benefits of the laser itself. And the FDA, subsequent to that study, cleared for body circumference reduction. And again, this is the only FDA equipment in laser therapy to actually that is cleared to treat those with BMIs greater than 30. Or in other words, those that actually have obesity. There's a lot of products out in the market, which before I acquired the green laser therapy with Virgil and Emerald was that obviously have some benefit in terms of body contour, but I did not find any other laser therapy that of this quality that actually was cleared by the FDA to treat obesity, in addition to contouring, in addition to also being able to improve the cellulite, which a significant amount of our female population has. And so it's been a wonderful addition to the practice. This is the study that actually took the Emerald. It was a study that was done over 4 weeks, and the study included patients who had BMIs somewhere between 30 and 40. 73% of those patients actually ended up releasing close to 6 inches of actual circumference or actual fat loss. In these patients, it is important to note that there was no change in the diet or exercise. And so literally 3 treatments a week for a total of 4 weeks. So this was a 12 total of 12 therapies. And during those 12 therapies, you can see that 2 weeks after they did their last therapy is when the last measurement was done, and that's where the 5.99 inches of average loss was subsequently concluded. Because obviously, after your last treatment, the body just opened up the pores again, and so it continues to work subsequent to the treatment. So that's why it's measured 2 weeks after the treatments ended. Just a little synopsis, again, substantiating the evidence base to support the clinical use of this wonderful equipment. So where does the fat go? Once in the extracellular space, the triglycerides are then either absorbed by the lymphatic system, and then they're transported via the afferent lymph nodes to the lymph nodes. They're subsequently broken down by the macrophages and then transported into circulatory system, which is then uses it as fuel. So for my practice, the majority of the patients that are coming in with the intention of releasing weight loss. And so I don't obviously use just the machine by itself. I go ahead and try to really focus on a comprehensive therapy, which literally at the base of it is behavioral modification and mindset adjustments, so that the weight release is not just temporary, but actually is permanent. And so when you're actually having someone eating less calories than they need for their body, then as you release all this energy from their fat cells, your body is going to utilize that energy significantly better to energize your body and to do the functions that need to fuel the body. And so we end up utilizing that energy for fuel. If for some reason there's extra fuel inside the cell, once it gets out that the body doesn't need, then it gets excreted through either your breathing, through sweat, through poop, through the urine. So that's how the body eventually gets rid of fat that is in the circulatory system. Integrating the Emerald laser therapy in my practice. So why did I choose to do this? I am a holistic practitioner. So what that means to me is that it doesn't matter to me if you were to come and sell me a pill that I could sell my patients because it's a vitamin B, let's say, for example, and I can make $10 on each product, and I could sell 100 of them and have this whole bunch of extra cash flow. For me, at the end of the day, is am I making a difference in my patients' lives? And primarily, the most beautiful thing that I have been able to find with the Emerald laser and integrating it is that it is holistic in nature. It is different than anything else I've seen. For example, some of the common ones out in the market, which a lot of you may already have or may know about, is like the cool sculpting. So the cool sculpting, first of all, it's not FDA approved for obesity therapy. It's mostly for contouring. But when you think about the concept of it, the idea is let's go ahead and kill those fat cells by freezing them, and then over 3 months they die. And so eventually it's almost like you have a liposuction, which literally sucked out the fat cells out of your system. And although that gives you some immediate sense of comfort because you may feel like you no longer have those fat cells. The unfortunate part is that most people don't really change their lifestyle. And so they needed to lose 20 pounds. They went and did this procedure. They feel happy that they're able to get into their dress. But then 6 months later, they didn't change their lifestyle. And so they begin to overeat. Now they no longer have those fat cells to absorb it, and they begin to have clumpy fat all over their body. So for me, integrating the emerald laser was really based on the holistic approach of how can I best serve my patients, how can I make the best difference, and this allowed me the opportunity to stimulate a faster release of the excess weight, in addition to also leaving the fat cells healed, so that they can continue to do the endocrine work that they really belong as part of the body to be able to do. And so for me, it solves the issue of losing too much lean body mass on a weight loss protocol. So from a bariatric perspective, one of the biggest challenges that we have as clinicians is, as we put someone on a low-calorie nutritional plan, the big thing is how much release of excess weight versus how much muscle mass. Obviously, we want to maintain as much muscle mass as possible. The lean body mass directly relates to the metabolism of the body. And so we need to be able to release the least amount of muscle and the most amount of excess fluff, or the excess fat from the cells in terms of volume. And so this emerald laser actually helps improve that, because it literally helps me go right to the source of where the energy is stored, allows me to release it so patients have better access to it. And so it's able to help me protect more muscle, because the body doesn't have to go break down the muscle to get the energy that it needs, because now we're making it more easy for the body to just use the fat or energy that's already available and that we want to use as the primary source. So by introducing the emerald, I'm able to also stimulate the body to release more fat during periods of caloric restriction while preserving the lean body mass. Patients are losing more fat loss as a percentage of total weight loss. So when I look at my patients before the laser and my therapies and subsequent to the laser, I'm now able to feel more comfortable that my patients are losing about 1/4, so about 25% or less. Sometimes they get into the 15%, depending on the amount of fat that they were in excess of. So anywhere from 15% to 25% is what my numbers look like when it comes to lean body mass loss. And so the significant amount of their weight is really at the level of the fat, which is literally what we want to begin with. It also allows me to target the areas of the body that are the most resistant to weight loss protocols. As you know, we have females that come in where they hold their weight more like a pear type of a weight as opposed to the apple. And in those individuals, they lose 20, 30 pounds. They begin to look thin in their face, thin in their upper body, but they stand up and they still have that stubborn excess weight in the lower body. The beautiful thing is that the emerald is able to help me facilitate a more direct loss in those areas where the excess is at, and also in those areas where the patient themselves feel more conscious of, which obviously affects their way that they see themselves and perceive themselves, and therefore how they feel about themselves. So it also helps me from a psychological boost, as patients are able to see results quicker, and therefore they're more than in tune to want to continue the process, to want to feel better about themselves. And so it's a more happy experience, because the patients are seeing results a lot sooner. They're able to get into their clothes a lot sooner than, or at least their smaller clothes a lot sooner than they were used to. These are some of the results that we have gathered before and after. This is 9 inches or release. And in most of these, it's actually consistent with the 8 therapies. So it could be 2 a week as an average. So it's a 4-week protocol. So this is 9 inches lost. This is 8 inches lost. And you can see here how this area right here begins to get a lot smaller, a lot tighter. You can see how the love handles here are beginning definitely decreasing. And you can begin to see a lot more muscle development here. You can see that the these little areas here have been decreased as well. Here's another individual that lost 10 inches. You can see how their pants were pretty much at the limit here. Here it looks like they're definitely a lot looser. You can see that you can begin to see the contour. So we're definitely making big differences in these patients. Here's another picture that gives you a perspective. So you can see how it's not only helping release the excess weight, but especially here where you tend to see a lot more corrugation consistent with cellulite, you can begin to see the smoothness of the skin also beginning to help. So it doesn't only help releasing, but it also helps with the collagen rebuilding that begins to occur as the body begins to heal itself. Here's another picture of another female. You can see a drastic improvement. Here's another one. So those are some of the pictures. My focus is really to help my patients heal from within, helping them change their mindset, helping them turn them on to a lifestyle and nutritional plans that not only help improve their release of excess weight, but more importantly, really decrease the inflammatory aspects in their life and begin to have a different way of perceiving themselves from a health perspective. And the intention is healthy weight for life. And the Emerald has definitely come into my practice to complement my philosophy. It's non-invasive, it's holistic in nature, and I feel confident continuing to use it on all my patients. So if there's any questions from a clinical perspective, I'll be happy to take any questions or comments.
Thank you, Cesar. As always, if you guys have any questions on the adjunct therapies or the diets that Dr. Lara had mentioned in his presentation, feel free to shoot me a email, or you can call me at the toll-free line, which I'll give you here at the end. And then I know Cesar's always more than generous to share that information. But thanks, Cesar. If you got some patients to go back to, you can feel free to log off. But what I will do for the next couple minutes here is go over one point that Cesar had made when he was speaking to hunting out medical devices. Before you spend your hard-earned money and invest on a medical device, make sure to take time to read the actual research and to read the 510K statement. So there is a lot of misconception out there on what a 510K statement is. It is a pre-market submission made to the FDA to demonstrate that the device is marketed as safe and as effective. So a lot of people think 510K just being safe. I can promise you, being part of the regulatory and the submissions with the 510K that Erconia does, being safe is just the first part. That allows you to participate or to run the study. You have to be effective to actually get a 510K clearance. The second part is, what does it take to get a FDA 510K statement? So for the Emerald submission in the 510K letter, we actually had to run 3 double-blind, placebo-controlled studies. Each study took anywhere from 3 to 5 years. So this was a 10 to 12-year process. The other thing to look at is bulletin number 3 there. Was the device submitted with clinical research, or is it substantial equivalent? So this was a great quote from a FDA presentation that Heather Rosencrantz had put on. 90% of all medical devices are substantial equivalent, which means they just found devices with similar specs, submitted no clinical evidence, but said that they can achieve the same outcome. Of the 10% that actually ran or submitted clinical research, only less than 10% of those were blind and controlled studies, which Erconia ran. The next point of the 510K statement, it gives you the ability to make marketing claims. So as of right now, coming out of the pandemic, and we already have an obesity rate of 2 out of 3 people, you want to be able to target obese patients and make that claim. Verjus is the only device on the market that you can actually put a billboard up or radio ad or Facebook ad to make these claims. And then the last part is make sure to take time to read the indication for use. This is all public information on FDA.gov. If you go to the medical device category and just simply search the manufacturer's name or the device name. I always use CoolSculpting as an example. Most people are familiar with the technology. This is their indication of use. The CoolSculpting system is a skin cooling or heating device. The device is indicated for cold-assisted lipolysis of the submental area, thigh, abdomen, flank, or love handles with a BMI of less than 30. The device is intended to affect the appearance of visible fat bulges. So when you look at affect the appearance of visible fat, again, I'm not 100% sure how they actually got this through FDA with this sort of study outcome, but that means with a trained eye, they could see a difference in the before and after with a patient. Now, I'll move down and you'll see the indication for use for the Erconia Emerald, which is indicated for use as a non-invasive dermatological aesthetic treatment for the reduction of body circumference in individuals with a body mass of up to 40 BMI. So a few things to point out. We were able to actually measure and meet the success criteria, which was over 4 inches of measurable body circumference, as well as we are not limited to a specific area. So it's not just waist, it's not just hips. You can treat anywhere from neck down, as well as we can treat anyone up to 40 BMI. Next slide here, research with the Mayo Clinic. So a few years ago, we actually received a call from Ivana Kogan, PhD, who's head of the weight loss clinic at the Mayo department. She had ran across some of our published articles on the Emerald online and wanted to run some independent trials at the Mayo Hospital. One of the greatest parts of working with the Mayo Clinic, other than the fact of them being one of the top recognized research institutes in the world, is they will not allow you to give them a device. We tried that. We're more than happy to do so. They actually purchased it full price. They wouldn't take a dime for any type of study resources. The reason they do this, they want zero possible conflict of interest. That way they're able to publish the most unbiased and reputable results. So what we have here is 2 published articles through Mayo. The first one on the left was using our green laser in conjunction with Laricin, which is a weight loss drug. The second article, which is published on the right, was looking at different study outcomes or protocols. So they tried a once a week, twice a week, and a 3 times a week protocol. What they came to find out or prove was what Erconia has already seen, which using a twice a week protocol will typically get you the best outcomes. And myself, as well as some of the other research team here, we just met with Ivana 2 weeks ago, and they're starting on their 3rd published study with the Emerald laser. The other thing I want to point out is I've gone to plenty of trade shows, as well as most of you guys have. Being medical device companies, you'll see a lot of them come and go. Sometimes they'll last a year, sometimes 5 years. Erconi, on the other hand, has been in business for 24 years. We have gained 18 FDA clearances. We started the actual FDA product code for non-invasive fat reduction, which is OLI, back in 2010. Even in regards to the Emerald laser, we are continuing to push the boundaries of what that device can treat. I have a study running through IRB right now for A1C levels, as well as the Mayo Clinic is going to be running their separate trial. And then some of the services we provide, it's obviously not a sell-only company that we have here. We do provide continuing support. We have a full marketing team, which will provide you seasonal materials, social media templates, promotional flyers. All this is actually over a online web portal that you'll have access to. As well as we do a lot of national media campaigns. And then one of the most exciting part is one of our laser experts will visit your facility to host a open house event. So we have the materials already in place. You will promote your open house. Our laser expert comes in. They'll spend that evening to do a full presentation and make sure that whoever comes is fully aware of the benefits of the Emerald and get them signed up that night for you. From an ROI perspective, the cost per treatment, 8 treatments being the baseline, it's about $2,400. The more obese patient you get, you will want to move the treatments up. So 10 treatments being $3,000, and then 12 treatments being $3,600 for the treatment package, which in perspective is a great deal for a patient once you break it down. That's a fraction of the cost of liposuction, as well as about half the cost of cool sculpting nowadays, and you're going to get way better clinical results. And just to kind of show you from a conservative standpoint, if you just seen 5 patients per month at the $2,400 treatment price, which is just simply 8 treatments, your annual revenue would be $144,000, which by no means are these far-fetched numbers.